That didn't work out.
Alright folks, this is Matt Hall with Simplecopter. We are here today to build the new Simplecopter Tricopter 3.0. It has the exact same dimensions as the 2.0. The changes we made on it were, I want a little bit more directional control over the 2.0 because the 2.0 is a little bit more less sensitive as far as showing you where the front is in flight. And the other main reason we did this was we wanted to build something kind of special and kind of unique and different, and what we came up with was a body to go onto the new 3.0. This is going to be made out of a plastic type material, yet undisclosed because I did it with Lexan and it's not very easy to work with. And I don't know if it's going to snap on the new one or not. We'll have to just see how it comes out when we form it, but it's a Lexan body or some type of impact resistant body. We're still playing with plastics right now. It's not available yet, but hopefully be relatively soon will be available. And what it'll give you is A, good looks, B, somewhat all-weather flying if you build the speed controls on the inside like I'm going to be doing today. So hopefully this will be available pretty soon, and it'll be a pretty cool addition to the already awesome, cool looks of the copter to begin with. So today we're going to start off with a frame as you buy it. Frames come relatively assembled. These will be a little less assembled because unfortunately with its design we can't fold it straight back like it used to be with the other copter. It still kind of sticks out a little bit. Not a big deal for transportation, but for shipping I might have to remove the arms and to do shipping that way. I haven't really checked it, but I will eventually. I'm just lazy. So we need a frame. Now the other thing about this frame is it comes with battery strap on the bottom to put your battery in the bottom, so obviously because it won't go on top anymore with that. And you can go on top. You don't have to use the battery strap. You don't have to use a body. You don't have to use any of that stuff. You can build it like a standard old copter, put the battery on top or whatever you want to do. The other cool thing is we incorporated lugs for the landing gear here and here. So if you purchase a landing gear, you'll put them on, they'll come with screws, and they will fit nice and flush in there, so it'll be a nice little easy setup for your landing gear, and pretty brilliant, I think, either way. Some of the things you're going to need for this copter is you're going to need 3 motors. I recommend the Sunny Sky 2212 1400 kV motors. Reason I like them, they're built very strong. It has a bolt-on prop adapter no matter what this picture shows you. I'm assuming when I get inside it'll actually have a nut, and it won't have this stupid shaft sticking out the back like it shows in the picture either. I don't know, I guess I had a lot of boxes left over or whatever, but Sunny Sky 2212 1400 kV motors running on an 8 by 4.5 prop will give you unbelievable amount of power on 4-cell and a quite good power on 3-cell. It should be all that most people need, but then when you really want to step it up and go really fast and really high, really quick, all you do is throw a 4-cell battery onto it and you're good to go. So you need 3 motors. You need 3 speed controllers. Now I want to talk about the speed controls a little bit because everybody talks about the Simon K. Hold on a second. Everybody talks about the Simon K program, which is exceptionally good. What Simon K in a nutshell does is it removes the buffer that is inside most speed controls that you buy, just airplane speed controls, that when you give it gas real quick, it kind of says, okay, let's go ahead and give it gas. It's not like, and I'm of course overdoing that, but there's a slight buffer that's built into the older speed controllers that were not made for multi-rotors. And it doesn't work as well as these Simon Ks that are just instantaneous. There's no buffer at all. The other thing Simon K has that's very important, it takes the LiPo battery safety off. So in essence, you're possibly going to over discharge your battery, but a battery's $25 and a copter can cost you $200. So what do you want to lose? The copter, or you want to lose the battery? So what it does is it doesn't have what they call a low voltage cutoff on them like the old airplane speed controllers have. So eventually it'll just come down and land, or it'll eventually crash if you're up high enough. But it kind of gives you a instead of having one motor just fall and it fall out of the sky, it'll just kind of lose power. But either way, if you set it up right and you put a low voltage battery alarm on it, like we're going to do in the video, you shouldn't have that happen very often. The other thing I use in mine is I use a timer on my radio, and So I know that I can fly about 8 minutes. So at 8 minutes, I get a beep on my radio, tells me, 8 minutes is up, and I kind of bring it in, and I kind of know when to land it. So speed controllers. These are Magic 30 speed controllers sold by Buddy RC. Exceptionally good speed controller. There's two other ones I'm going to suggest. There's one from Ready to Fly Quads, and it's the Fire 30, and it is almost as good as this. When I say almost as good, if scaled to 1 to 10 on how rigid and quick you can make things do things on the thing, I would say this is a 9. I'd say the F30As are an 8. I'd say a one that you buy just for a regular airplane would be like a 2, meaning it'd be kind of mushy and kind of, when you stop the stick, it'll kind of a little bit, where this is real rigid. When you stop the stick, it goes and stops exactly where you want it to go. The one that's actually more rigid than this is the Afro 30 from Hobby King. That's a very, very precise controller. I'm sorry, speed controller. It's a little bit too much for me. And I hate to say that it's almost too good of a speed controller, but for me that I've been flying and I'm kind of used to having a little bit of looseness, it was so tight that it didn't make me look like I was flying very good. I looked like I was, I do a roll and I know to let go of the stick here, and it would stay there. With these, I let go of the stick here, and it makes that little extra correction to bring it in smooth for me. And if you're starting out or you're not used to any of the speed controller, the Afro 30s will not bother you at all. You're going to love them. Don't love the name, but I love the speed controller. So they're about 12, 13 bucks. These are about 15, and the ones from Ready to Fly Quads are about $10 a piece. So they're all really good speed controllers. Whatever you can get. Again, don't worry about the Afros being too rigid for me. You're not going to notice it. You're not going to notice it like I do, because I'm just so used to flying with less than. It's hard to explain, but okay, here you go. A Formula One car. If you take a Formula One car on the street and try to drive it and you never drove it before, you'd be all over the place because the steering is so precise. These are like BMW M3 speed controllers, which are precise, but it's still got a little user friendliness for me. And then the Ready to Fly Quads ones are like a standard BMW non-M edition. It's still an incredibly good driving car, but maybe not quite as precise as an M3 or a more advanced driving car. So all three good, and get what you can. And I like the Magics just because they're just right between the Afros and the F30, the Fire 30s that you get at Ready to Fly Quads. Number 3, control boards. There are a lot of control boards in the market. Everybody keeps saying, hey, use the NOS 32. Hey, use the, oh, hell, I have one sitting up here somewhere that Buddy sent me, but whatever that one they sell. The KK has a screen on the front of it and makes for adjustments at the field much easier. I've flown the other boards, and they're really good boards, but I can't get over the fact that I can hit a button and change my my gains, or I can change my scale sticking without hooking it to a computer. And it comes with a little buzzer too that lets we can hook up for a low voltage alarm. So enough about the boards. I mean, it's really your decision on what you want to do. With this copter, I recommend taking it out of the case. It will fit in just barely. Well, okay, I lied. Maybe not. All right, we'll take it out of the case. That's weird. Thought it fit. Oh, there we go. Okay, either way, with the... Oh, now it's stuck. Great. So with the case off of it is way I'd recommend doing, because you got the protection that the case is offering, and all you got is weight. And it also kind of, shakes around a little bit in the case a little bit. So if you want to use a case, you need to put a little bit of padding in the bottom or something, a little thin foam or something to really lock it into that case. Because a lot of people complain about just that little bit of looseness can cause it to fly a little bit funky. But either way, I always take them out of the case for everything except my mini tricopter. The mini tricopter doesn't have any protection, so that's when I use the case on it. And so KK2 board. Servos. You can get a cheap servo. In fact, there's a pretty decent cheap servo, which is kind of this one. Where's the rest of them at? Oh wait, let me get it out of the drawer. Damn it. Okay. Alright, you can get these on eBay for $6-7. I would not suggest it for this copter unless you're just going to kind of cruise around nice and easy. But it's called the Tower Pro MG 90S servo, $5 or so on eBay. I use them for the mini tricopter. They can be used for this in a pinch. You might want to get this as a backup to a HS82 Metal Gear servo. But the HS82 is going to stand a lot more impacts. It's going to last longer. They are about $20, but they're well worth it in my book. There's a lot of ones that have similar specs on Hobby King, some of the Corona, some of the Turnigy servos. I've tried them. I broke them. So, you know, I can buy 3 of those and have it last for about the same amount of time as an HS82 Metal Gear servo from High Tech. So I recommend this servo, but go grab one of these for a backup. You know, you're at the field and you do screw up, you do break the servo. You can throw this little sucker on there and fly for the rest of the day and then get you another one later on. So, servos. Alright, for my build I'm going to do today, I'm going to put the speed controls inside the body. The reason I do that is it looks cool. There's nothing other than that. It just looks good to not have the servo sitting out in the arms. So I'm going to build it inside the body for my own personal use. You can put them out in the arms, and it makes life a lot easier for doing your soldering, but it just makes it look a little bit less finished. So I'll show you the layout for both of them in a second. We're going to need the Sunny Skies come with a bullet connector on the end of the motor. At least I hope they do. And which is great, but they don't give you the female side of it. So you got the connector. No, good. Here, but you have no other side to plug this into that comes with it. I wish it came with the other side to save everybody a lot of money, but I have them available on my website. You can buy these connectors, which only use half of it for the build. So you won't need that, but you'll need this, and that'll plug in, and that's actually kind of loose. So I'm also show you how to spread these out a little bit to make them fit better into here, and I don't know why. Some of them are loose, some of them aren't. That one's kind of loose, and that one's kind of loose. So basically just take your X-Acto knife, I'll go into that later, but you'll put that in the split, and just kind of wiggle it out both ways. A little bit, not crazy. And then it should make it. Okay, I don't know why that cut off, but it cut off. So you'll, again, on the outside speed controllers, you'll actually run the wires to this across, and then so you need a little longer 14 gauge wire. If you put the speed controls inside, you'll need to get some 18 gauge or 16 gauge wire to make extensions to go out to the actual motors on all sides. And that's how I'm going to show, because it is harder to do that than it is to do the external speed controllers. So what I'm going to do is, once I get the motors on, I'm going to kind of zip tie the speed controls on the outside and kind of show you how I would do the wiring, even though we're not going to do it that way from my particular build. What else you need? Don't need. It's nice to have these little pads, and you'll see me use these little pads on under the motor tabs when I put them on, and under the speed controls when I put it on. And it just kind of makes a little bit of vibration and makes it nice and sticky and holds tension on the zip ties. KK2 mounting boards. These things are a must-have, and that's what you put on the bottom of your KK2 board, which I will show you at a later time. And then that is a little connector that goes from the servo to the rear block of the copter, and we'll hook in here and then go up to your servo, and I'll show you that in detail later on. They're available on my site. You can also, if you're an old timer, you've been flying RC airplanes for a while, it's basically a piece of 256 rod with a metal hasp on it, bent 90 degrees. You guys will know what it is. You don't need to buy it from me. You can go rip it off one of your broken airplanes in the garage. So I think that's it for starters. We're going to go over putting the motors together, then we'll go from there. Cut. Okay, I lied. Let's go over painting real quick. Using paint that you can go to Walmart and get, I'll show you what I use. Oh, damn it. What I used to use, so I just dropped it and broke the stupid damn nozzle. That's okay. So I like fluorescent colored paints because I'm getting older and I like to be able to see what I'm doing. I'm not sure about this Rust-Oleum, but I get this at Walmart. It's $4. It's fluorescent paint. They have green, they have yellow, they have all sorts of different colors if you want a nice bright color. Yellow to me has been the most easily seeable color when going into the tree lines and stuff like that at speed. The other thing I buy is some clear gloss, and the clear gloss kind of goes over the top after you get done painting it, and it takes it from more of a matte finish to more of a glossy type of finish, and just seems to repel water or dew and stuff like that, and it makes it prettier. It does add a little bit of weight, but you know, part of life. So painting, primer, definitely a good idea. If you can get a little bit of white primer and kind of white primer, nice and easy, sand it, spray it with color, sand it. If that looks good, put a little clear on it, and you're done. This can take a day to do because of times for drying and sanding and stuff like that. But it really gives you a nice finish when you're all done. And if you're got a brain in your head, you'll get an extra set of arms and go ahead and paint them while you're at it. That way, when you break an arm, if you break an arm, you'll have one ready to go. In my case, I've actually got a couple dozen of these arms that I've drilled for the tricopter, T-copter, and V-tail. So it has 3 holes in it, and they're all yellow, so I can just put it on any copter. But either way, that's paint. Let's go on to putting motors together. All right, putting my reading glasses on. So, oh yeah, it's in focus now. Okay, so you want to put a little bit of this blue Loctite, and I just put this a drop on the plastic that I used from the motors that came in. So with Sunny Sky motors, the nice thing about them is that the mounting plates are really thick. I mean, you just can't, I've never broken a Sunny Sky mounting plate. I can't say that for the Hobby King motors or the RC Timer motors. I got a bunch of extra plates for those. They're all broken. And it also has a bolt-on adapter, so I was right. It does come with the actual nut and bolt-on adapter for it. So we got to take that off, and you can do the top or the bottom first. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to do the top, put that on there. Get the little small screw. And the other cool thing about Sunny Sky is they actually send you extra screws, so when you screw up and drop one of these on the carpet, never to be seen again. So I just put a little tiny dab on there, and you know, just don't make it too tight at first. Just go ahead. You want to put them all 3 in, and then do a crisscross pattern tightening on it. So I got to watch. Another camera's kind of zoomed in, so I think I'm still on the screen. Let's see. No, not even close. Okay, right there. So, oh, no, I did it. So, little dab. See, real easy when you're trying to keep your hands. By the way, when I build this thing, it's going to look awkward because I'm trying to keep my hands clear of the camera, and it's usually a friggin' disaster. So you'll just have to bear with me on this. So we're going to put the top in, then we're going to probably fade on editing to putting the bottom in. So I want to sit there and look at it. So once you get them all a little tight, you just want to kind of crisscross and tighten them all down nice. Alright, bottom one. Now you'll notice on this thing, let me check one more time, make sure I'm still in frame. Yes. Alright, if you'll notice in the bottom plate, you have concaved things where your screws will go down the side. If you use the wrong side, then the screws will stick up on top and it'll look bad and won't work right. So the other thing is you'll notice that 2 of these are farther apart than this. On the bottom of the motor, 2 of them are farther apart. I have no clue why they do that. Don't really care. I guess it's whatever. But so we're gonna dab a little blue. Throw that in there. I use a bigger screwdriver for this. And we're gonna put all 4 of those in there, and I'll be back in a few minutes once I get them all done. Okay, we got the motors all put together, all Loctited. So next thing we're going to go to is marking your board location on your frame. So if you got a pencil, pen, marker, Sharpie, whatever it takes. Well, of course yours won't have all the stuff on here, but obviously painted too. So you're going to take your pencil or pen. You're basically going to go inside and mark that. Once that's done, we're going to disassemble the body and reassemble it. I'm going to disassemble it first and be right back. Alright, before we go any farther, I'm gonna give you some options on this build. Again, I'm going to go with the internal. That's the way I'm going to build this. But some of the other things you could do if you wanted to, mount your motor and put the speed controller on the arm here with the heatsink up, if it has one. And then Hobby King and RC Timer, all of them sell this little wiring, kind of pre-made wiring harness. And I'm looking at it. I don't see any reason why you can't do it. It would make life a lot easier on you. You basically still have to put, if you use this particular speed control, you'd have to put the bullets on the end of this. You have to get enough bullets to put on the end of this that go into here and here. And I think if you ran it, you could actually put this harness up somewhere in this area. You know, run your wires out here. Might have a little bit leftover stuff you have to kind of bundle up and stick up underneath the plates. But I believe you could do it. I'm going to go ahead and, just to show people, I'll go ahead and kind of solder it up, and I'll desolder it and do what I'm going to do. But, you know, this would be an easy, quick option for you if you wanted to do it. I will find the, you know, RC Timer and Hobby King, and if y'all like the idea, I'll get some, put them on my site, and inflate the price, of course. But either way, this could be done. I don't see any reason why it would not work. You know, that basically have your wiring harness ready, made for you. You have to do solder bullets, and soldering bullets is a piece of cake. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to solder a bullet, and we'll go from there. But before we do that, let's go into soldering real quick. The solder I use, if I can find it, here it is it's a Kester, K-E-S-T-E-R, and it's a 44 thousandths, I think, diameter, and it's a rosin core. I don't see any kind of, something about number 6644. Don't know anything about solder, I just know that this particular stuff works very good. Here, I'll do a close-up of what I'm using, and I mean, you know, I've used other stuff that works fine, but hopefully it's in focus. That's what, is that upside down? Yeah, no, it's fine. So that's what I'm using, and works good. You need to have a decent soldering iron. I mean, it's, you can, the first ones I ever built, I built with the can't tell if there's anything in focus or not. Hold on a second. Say somewhere around there. That looks good. Okay, first ones I built was with like a little Weller 40 watt, 35 whatever watt soldering iron from Home Depot. And then I ended up buying one of these right here from Hobby King for 15 bucks. And I thought I was king of the world because I had a soldering station. It's a 60 watt, really works really good. And then I decided to go ahead and spend the money, and I bought one of these. And this is a what they call a rework station. It's an 85 watt digital readout, and you know, it's got the heat gun here, so when I pull it out, heats up, and I can use it for heat shrink. It's pretty cool. I mean, I pay $100 for that, but they are some for like 50-60 bucks. It has the heat gun. I mean, if you're not gonna do a whole lot of soldering, then I'd get a little Hobby King one, or you know, go to Home Depot and buy the cheap one. But either way, that's soldering. Let's go to bullet connector. All right, the whole reason for that rant was I needed time for my soldering iron to heat up. So bullet connectors. Once the if I can do is without knocking anything over. You got 3 wires on one side of the speed controller. That's what goes to your motor. So you need to have the female version of the male part that comes off the motor itself. It's pretty self-explanatory. So basically, I take the soldering iron, put a dab on the side of the thing, put it on here, pull me up some solder in there. Nice and easy. These are already pre-tinned, so I don't have to pre-tin the, which means put a little bit of solder onto the actual doohickey. Drop that sucker in there, let go, kind of hold it for about, you'll figure it out, but 10-15 seconds. Try not to move it around much. And then, voila, you have a bullet soldered. Don't touch that, by the way, it's hot. So we're going to take heat shrink in a little while and go over the top of that and close it. But I'm going to go ahead and solder up all the connectors on here. I'm going to go ahead and solder bullets onto this just to show you how to use a Hobby King one, and which is the power side of your speed controllers. And then we'll go on to the building it the way I'm going to do it my own. Okay, once you get all your bullets soldered on, that took me about 10 minutes, it wasn't too bad. You want to take some 5mm heat shrink. Usually, if you're a really good soldering guy, you can probably do it with 4, but I suck. So basically put that on like that, hit it with some heat, and it's done. Or, if you go out and spend the money, you take a little heat gun off here, let that sucker heat up, and you can do it this way. I think the other way is actually quicker, but this one's much cooler, so I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to put the heat shrink on here because I'm not going to keep this in for the Hobby King RC timer / wiring harness, but that feels good. It's cold out here, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the heat shrink, and then we're going to try doing kind of like a temporary zip tie and kind of throw this wiring harness on here and make sure it all works. If it does, then that's going to be one option. Here we go. Alright, so no matter what you do, you're going to have to hook the motor up, which as far as this, the wiring harnesses you decide to use. So I sell these little pads. They're a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. They're gray. They're mildly sticky. They're not super duper sticky. And again, what this does is it gives you a, when you zip tie these motors on, it kind of gives you a little, keeps pressure and tension on the zip tie, so you can, you know, tie it nice and tight. And because if you just do it without it, they tend to kind of wobble loose after they get a little bit loose. So you just want to set the other one just so it's in between the two. That was a little off, but that's okay. We're not real anal about those things around here. So I take one zip tie and I just kind of start it, stick it on, motor on relatively in the middle, and the other thing you want to do is you want to make sure your zip ties are not zipped both the same way. So right now this lug's on that side. I'm going to take this one and put this lug on the other side as such. These are 18-bound zip ties. They're good. They break loose in a hard crash. You can also take and you know, double them up if you want to have some more power. Sorry, I got to tighten it up. This is also a zip tie gun. This is actually a wonderful thing to get. You can get them from Uline. They're about 15 bucks. And but if you don't, you can take pliers and do it the old-fashioned way, which is put a set of pliers in, needle nose pliers, and pull them tight that way. So, all right, that's the motor. I'm going to go ahead and let's do the rear motor too while we're at it. Let's see if we're centered up relatively close. Let's check, and out there, focus looks okay. So when you put the rear motor on, you don't want to put the wires facing forward. That's bad. And you also have to keep in mind there's a little hole in the side of this block that this little doohickey goes into, and you really don't want to drill and screw down through that hole. So to do that, I usually put the servo to rear block connector on this side, and then what I'll do is I'll actually rotate the motor one way or the other so I know I'm missing it. It kind of makes sense. I'm putting it slightly off center on here just so I know that that inside screw is going to bypass hitting that hole for the thing. And basically what I do is I hold it down, I drill one. I don't know what size drill bit this is, but common sense will kick in at some point. You'll figure it out. Get my handy screwdriver. You want to mount the first screw in there before you drill any more. Lesson learned the hard way. I actually have a screwdriver that I can do this with, but like an electric one, but let's just go old school on this. Alright, by the way, old school sucks. Alright, so once you get that first one in there, then just center it up best you can and hit the rest of them and screw it in there. I'm going to do it off camera, but you get the idea. Okay, real quick here, I checked all my little connectors with the speed controllers, and they are all relatively loose going in here, and which I don't like. You shouldn't be able to just, I mean, it's be okay, but it's not good if those things come loose. So if you can find, even smaller than this, a little Phillips head screwdriver, like a little jeweler's one, and basically just stick it till it notches in there and just kind of wiggle around a little bit. Not too crazy, but just open it up a little bit, and then stick it back in the doohickey. And yeah, that's good. I mean, that takes, you can actually hear it go tink when you pull it out. So you want it to be able to release, but you don't want it just to fall out. So that's that. Okay, this is kind of like just a proof of concept here. So we got the motor mounted. We go here to the speed controller, and this is using this harness. Same here, the rear, come to here, coming up the side. Now it's got the spool on here to show you because you kind of have to bundle the wires when it's all said and done, or it'll pop out. But you get the idea. And you'll have 2 extra wires left over, and you'll use those. Hey, my wife's calling. Hey, honey. Hey, I'm doing a video here of the Simplecopter 3. Say hello to everybody. Wait, I don't have you on speakerphone. Hold on. And go.
Hi, everybody.
Alright, that's it. I'm hitting the stop button. Okay, she just hung up. So, again, we have 2 extra wires left over. They're in focus. And what we'll do is we'll actually tab off that to the BEC connector that you can also purchase from me, which I forgot to mention about. That goes to the board. Hey, this thing's zooming on its own. Crap. So, so much for professional photography here. Bam, there we go. So, the 2 leftovers, we wire some of the male connectors onto that and run that to the board to give it a feed for the voltage. I'm really tempted to just go ahead and finish this build up this way and do this, but I'm really lazy. I don't want to have to take it all apart and do it back the way I want to do it. So you'll just have to kind of go from here, and just when I talk about soldering the little wires, you'll have to figure out that I really mean to hook the 2 bullets to that and then run it up to the board. The board does not have to have that feed off the power supply, or off the wiring harness to function. But without it, you can't use the low voltage alarm on a KK2 board feature. So if you're not putting a KK2 board, you put in a non-32 or one of the other boards in here, then don't worry about any of that. Just, you know, put a piece of tape over it and be done with it. So this is the simple harness, I guess, and I will provide a link to Hobby King's version, RC Timer's version, and I might, like I said, I might grab a couple, dozen of them and put them on my website, so in case you just want to get them from me. I don't use the T60 or whatever you call this connector. I use the old Dean's type. So I don't know if you can get them with Dean's, so that might be an issue. But keep in mind, guys, this is a hobby. And, it does take some thought and work to make all this stuff work, but you get a superior product when you're all done. So I'm going to go, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'll figure it out. All right, that's some contemplation. I'm going to stay with the easy wire thing for a little bit longer here. So next thing you're going to want to do is put your board on. And so you want to take these little pads, cut them in half. And on other builds, we've been running them up the sides of this. With this one, because of the strap, we're going to run it side to side on the bottom. And so that's what your little lines are there for. Kind of help you line all that stuff up. And then you're going to want to put your strap in before you put your board down. Either, obviously, it'd be a little bit of a pain in the butt to do later on. So it's just pray you don't pull your strap out accidentally. And number 2. Might be a little fast forwarding here. Okay, so take your strap. You got to figure out which way it needs to go on and tighten. That's not the right way. So it goes this way. And you want to test run it, make sure it'll tighten and hook to the Velcro. So we know that's right. So I'm basically going to go up underneath it, work through, back down, run it through the loopy thing, make sure that you do have it right. And yep, so I'm going to pull it nice and tight. And then I'm going to put the board down. So you peel doohickeys off. Did I move? There we go. If you have fingernails, you pull the doohickeys off. If not, you get your stupid knife out. Use that in lieu of fingernails. This stuff is sticky. Once you stick this board down, you get it seated in there, it ain't coming off. I mean, it'll come off. You'll rip the foam. You have to buy new little sticky things. You can't reuse these. It's a pretty cool product. So unfortunately, I lost my little lines by doing that, but I'm just going to assume that everything's pretty damn close. You can kind of look at the strap lines and center it on the strap holes. I kind of got close there. Pressure it down nice and tight. And voila, your board is on and has a little bit of a shock absorption on it. So I'm going to show you one more thing. We got a BEC connector, wrong one, that you can purchase, and this hooks onto this little red doohickey. This is battery, and then luckily it's a plus and minus, so basically it'll hook on right here, and you'll use your two little extra things and take your two extra. See, if you get the, that's the cool thing, if you get the male female, you know, the 9 male female things, I think it leaves you just 2 extra. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, you got 3 extra ones left over. So you would figure out where you want this to be, cut. Sorry, killed my first battery. Alright, so you take these extra 2 little doohickeys, figure out pretty much what it's going to be, make your determination where, you know, your wire's going to need to be to hook into it, cut it, solder, stick, red to red, obviously, black to black. And then you have a feed going to your board to let it know what the voltage is. Again, you don't have to have this to make it work, but if you have it on there with the beeper, then it'll beep when you set the voltage for that, which we'll show you later on. So this is going to conclude the easy wire. I say easy. You still got to find some place to jam all this stuff and try not to get it in the way of everything. But you know, it should work just fine. Should be easy to do. And that's the conclusion of the easy wire setup. Now I'm going to go to the hardwire setup, so I'll put something in the video to let you know to bypass all that if you want to just bypass it. So, alright, I hope that answers everything I can think to answer. Oh, and another thing is obviously ignore all this soldering the bullet females onto the end of the speed controller thing if we're doing the hardwire setup, because that you have to put extensions on here, and I'll show you how to do all that in a second. Alright. Okay, this is a section for the people who are up for a challenge of doing an internal wiring setup, and gives you a little cleaner install, and it's just the way I like to do it. I know it's a pain in the butt, but you know, that never stopped me before. So what I usually do, you can do 2 things. We need to put extensions on these wires. The speed control's gonna sit in there. They're gonna curve around, and then we got to make up the distance between here and the set of motor wires up here. And I use 18 gauge wire because I'm a little bit of a weight freak, and I don't think that we have enough power going out to those motors to need to have 16 gauge wire. That's what I do. So I got some 18 gauge wire here. So you can do 2 things. You can, you know, it might be easier just to kind of measure the worst case scenario of length from here to here and cut, solder, and do all this stuff, and then go out there and cut the ends later on and put the bullet connectors on there. Or you can go ahead and hook them straight up. I'm just gonna do them the way I think that makes it for the cleanest install. It means I'm gonna go ahead and take and solder leads onto all these going out this way, and then I'm gonna come back and show you insulation areas, and then kind of how to hold it out there at the end, find your measurement, and put your bullets on there. It's really not bad. That part's pretty easy. Running the main wiring harness is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but you know, what in life is worthwhile doing that's not a little bit of a pain in the butt. So I'm going to go ahead and solder these leads on, and well, I'll just go ahead and give you an idea real quick. I know this is going to sit right about here. And I know my worst shortest wire is right here, so I'm going to take that as my worst case scenario. I'm going to take a piece of wire, pretend like it's soldered onto the shortest wire, run it out here, get about a 3/4 inch difference, and so that's going to be my piece. I'm going to cut 6 of these that length. I'm just going to lay that there so I know. And then the rear, make sure we can see the rear here, may not be quite in focus, something like that, is going to sit here. These wires are generally in life a little bit shorter, so I'm going to come out the side, get me my little wire doohickey here, and I'm going to pull the shortest wire, which is, they're all about the same, and pull it up to here, add about an inch extra, and this seems to be about the length I need to cut these. So you can see that these are going to be shorter than that. Is that in the picture? Give you an idea about the length. So I'm going to cut 3 shorts and 6 longs. And then I'll just do a quick solder to show you what I'm doing on the solder end here, and then I'll turn the camera off and we'll let you guys do your thing. Okay, just a quick note, this 18 gauge wire, I had 6 feet to start with, and I ended up with maybe a foot left over. So 6 feet ought to be fine, 6 or 7 feet. This stuff's cheap, you know, 30, 40 cents a foot. So that's what I ended up with, and I'll be right back. So about 6 feet, 18 gauge. Alright, oops. I think that'll work. So, these speed controls, I'm going to go ahead and take off a little bit of extra wire, just so I have, you know, about a ½ inch of Great, my compressor just came on, so sorry if it's noisy. So I have about a ½ inch. I've already stripped that back about a ½ inch. So we're just going to connect those two, solder those two up, and let's see, am I close to being in the thing? Yeah, good enough. So find the solder. You want to pre-tin both. By the way, it's a really bad idea doing this over the top of the board here. This is really stupid because I had a customer call me up and said, I was just about done and I had a big old blob of solder fall on my board and it shorted it out. So don't do this. I'm just doing it because I'm too lazy to move the camera. Ow, hot, hot. I should have moved the arms a little bit close together. So not a great solder, but it's fully functional. It's not going to go nowhere. So we're going to do that to all the speed controllers. Two fronts will get the long ones, and the back will get the shorter ones. Okay, once you make that little solder right there, forgot, you slide the heat shrink on. I'm using 4mm heat shrink here because I did a reasonably okay job of soldering. Well, I say that, now it's being a little bit of a sissy about going on there. And you know, heat shrink it up. Just go ahead and get it over with. So again, we're going to do that to all the 3-wire lead parts that come out of the controller. In this case, they're black, but don't do it to the 2s. I've done that before and screwed up. So, all right, we'll be right back. Okay, got everything all soldered up. Got my short and 2 longs. So, if you look at these speed controls, some of them will have a heat sink on the top of them, where it doesn't have the circuitry in the back. It's got like a metal plate. You want to try to keep that facing up. Now, to attach these speed controllers, you can use hot glue, which I've used, what I've mainly used in the past. But I have found that after a nice hot day in the sun, my speed controllers can end up oozing out the side of my copter. It's not very pretty. So, lately I've been using more of the KK2 board foam tape. And so that's what I'm going to be using for this. So basically you're going to put a little piece in the bottom. It doesn't take much. Cut it in half. And then kind of want to place it so the bend will be about right. So, and just kind of give a little push down. And repeat that on the other side. I can figure out what I did with my speed controller right here. Keeping the heatsink up. No fingernails. I have no clue why I'm tilting them out like this, but I'm sure there's a good reason for it. And not even uniform. Alright. Like I said, these things stick and there's no well. We'll just live with that one. Should have been a little more up, but that's okay. Rear one goes, like I said, this stuff, when you put it down, it's down. You're not going to get it back out. So I'll actually pull it out a little bit. Well, I'll split the difference. Alright. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a continued, we can do 2 things. Let's go ahead and do the main harness because it's the biggest pain in the butt. So I'm going to pick a black or red wire, whatever you want to do. And since this one's making a quicker turnaround, it's going to come down farther. I'm going to decide where I want to put this, but I'll probably put it right about here. Yeah, that ought to work fine. Alright, I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to show you how I connect these two guys together. Alright, my stupid zoom zoomed itself out while I was sitting here doing all this. I'm not sure what happened, but either way, here's a placement for the two front speed controllers and the rear speed controller. And I use the KK2 board tape on the bottom of it because that stuff just doesn't come loose. I've used hot glue, and it tends to sometimes in a hot day out in the sun it'll start softening up and the speed controller come oozing out the side. It's not a pretty sight. And so here's the placement of the speed controllers. The main power wires on the top. These are going to go around the arm and out to the motors themselves on both sides. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to show you how to start the wiring harness. Alright, so I'm going to pick the black one just for the heck of it. And I'm going to run it, since it's kind of longer, making this turnaround. It's going to be my short wire. This one turns around nice and quick. So in my particular case, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut about 3/4 of an inch off this one long one. Strip it about a 1/2 inch. Twisty. I'm going to match it to this one to where it looks like it's going to be nice and comfortable. I'm going to find that spot. Then I'm going to take and strip this wire gently. About a 1/2 inch to match, maybe a little bit more. And you just got to kind of do it by feel here. So you end up with an open spot like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to tin this up, and join these two together as such, like that. And then we're going to heat shrink it. So again, the handy. By the way, this little I don't know if they call it helping hands, whatever you call it. You can get those at Harbor Freight for like $8. It's good money spent. And I like you can get them Radio Shack, a little bit more expensive, probably a little bit better quality, but I just buy 2 or 3 of them. And so we're just going to hold the soldering iron there. Just go ahead and it'll build up heat. You can kind of get around the back side of it. Nice, pretty. I don't know if this is in frame, but I'm tinning up the other side. Probably not in frame. Kind of where a good hot soldering iron comes in handy. This makes this a little quicker. So I'm going to take this and it's literally that's hot. I didn't say that bad word, did I? Alright, we're still on. Letting that cool down a second. I'm going to hold it up against the side. Oh, not sure that's good. And this is really, really warm. And I'm thinking bad words right now. Okay, so you just connected the males, and this is where your bigger heat shrink comes in, like 5 mil or 6 mil. Got a little bit of 6 mil here. Probably gonna do it with 5. Let's try it with 5 just for fun. We got plenty of 5. That's 6 too. You know you've been in this hobby too long. You can pick up heat shrink and tell what size it is by the feel. I think it's 5. You can do 6. It doesn't matter. This wire's pretty thick, so. Pop that off slightly. You don't want to forget this because you can do it later. So yeah, I would probably use 6 on that, but 5 just kind of fits. And we're going to go with old school heat on this heat shrink. So now, well, actually, technically I could hook those two together and do it that way, but I'm not going to do that because I need to start bringing the main harness wire in here somehow. And obviously I'm not going to need as much as I thought. I told you to get a foot, but I obviously can do less, but it's hard to buy it in less than a foot increment. So what I'm going to do, I'm still thinking here, guys, is I need to hook, and I need to bring this in. I'm going to just bring it in farther down the line. So next solder I'm going to do is going to be the main harness wire in here. So I need to cut this back a little bit. I'm telling you, this is really not as hard as it looks on here. It's just people freak out first time they've done it, but it makes sense if you do it for a while. Again, you might want to put something over your board. You don't want any solder to drop down on your board. So let's take and put a protective covering over it somehow. Here we go. I stole this from my daughter. Of course, I don't know how well that's going to hold up against solder. That's probably a bad idea. Piece of cloth, paper towel maybe. Honestly, I'd never do this myself, but for the video, I figure I better go ahead and do that. There we go. Now I look like a pro. So I'm going to tin this up. Need to clean my tip. Clean the tip. And then try to remember what I did with the actual wire. I got it. Alright, I'm going to tin this up. Is that still on the camera? Somewhere. You get the idea. Ooh, it's kind of messy. Do a good job of stripping that one. Alright. So I'm going to tin that. I think tinning's the right thing to say. It's probably a more technical term for it, but I'm just going to hand hold this one because it's just easier. Alright. So we need to heat shrink that. I'm going to use a 6 this time because I'm lazy. So we can see what the 6 will do. Slide it on from the back. And get the high-tech heating device. Here it is. Trying to catch a paper towel on fire. That would suck. Alright, nice. Alright, and then we're going to bring this one in. Make sure I'm still in view. Yeah, let me tilt down a little bit. Refocus. Stand out. So somewhere around here. Now the trick is you're going to have to put the heat shrink on before. So I'm going to say right about here. So I'm going to snip it. This is really, so far, pretty easy. And then strip it, snip it, strip it. And match it up. Let's make sure this is all going to run good before we I'd say on the side here works. So I'm guessing right about there. My camera just made a clicking noise, so hopefully it's still recording. Yep. And pull that off. I did mention this is a hobby, right? This is not a box copter. Alright. Got that. Got a little bit, some hairs on there. Put our protective thing back over here. Get that soldered up. And tin this one up. Oh, can't make music. Probably been better to put this in the helping hand thing, but I didn't do it. Alright, now remember I told you about the heat shrink. Don't forget to put it on first, and definitely want to use 6 mil. I think that's 6 mil. So put the heat on first, heat shrink on first, or you'll be desoldering this. Get it up out of the way, try to get it far away because it can actually shrink on you. Kind of sucks. Alright, this one's not as pretty, so it's going to be hot. Use my helping hands to kind of put a little tension on there for me. And come on, let's go. There we go. No, good. And can't see anything in blind. It's not going to be my better solder. Alright, that's not going to work. Too hot. Okay. So I need to make another approach at that. I should have pulled it apart before it set, which I didn't. It doesn't always work perfect, guys. Sorry. So I'm going to let it cool off a second and put a bend in it. Like so. Go ahead and use the other helping hands. Put some tension on this thing. Oh yeah, that would be much better, I think. Oh yeah, okay. Those went together. My hand's really, really hot right now. And to make sure that's going to work good, I'm going to give it a tug test. That sounds kind of perverted. Yeah, it looks good all the way around it. Drop your heat shrink back over it. And believe it or not, we got the male side of the wiring harnesses done. So this is not terrible hard. So basically that's how it's going to sit through there, and it's going to come out the back. In this case, we'll put the wire on later on. We'll figure out where it's. So obviously this one's going to exit out the back instead of like the easy one that's exiting out the front. No big deal. You just turn your battery the other way and we're good to go. So that's the negative side. I'm going to do the positive side off camera, and then we'll start doing the doohickeys to the end. So I think that should work. I'll be right back. Okay, let's back up a little bit. I did forget one thing. I do want to have the power wire going to the control board, and I threw that wire somewhere. Here it is. So that needs to be in the system somewhere too. So since I screwed up, I'm going to take this off and refix it. Hopefully you will watch this through before you actually do it. And I'll try to put a little notation on the build. Alright, let go. Alright, so I'm going to desolder this real quick. You know what? I'm not going to desolder. Yeah, I have to desolder so I can get heat shrink on there. Alright, so heat shrink goes, doesn't matter which way it goes. So again, I'm going to probably use 6mm on this. And I'll slide that this way. So we're going to reconnect. We're going to connect that little BEC back in here. That BEC wire. If I can get all this crap together. It would have been much better if I would have done it to begin with. Hopefully you will. BEC wire, here it is. I'm going to get a little bit extra wire on it. You know, I do this every time. Almost every copter I've ever built for myself, I forget this stupid wire. And have to do it later. So I'm gonna try something. Hopefully this will work fine. Again, you should have your board covered up. I'm gonna throw caution to the wind. I'm still in there? Okay. I know this is looking less and less like a good idea now, isn't it? Okay, get those together. What I'm gonna do, so I can find the stupid wire, is to put some solder on it. It won't take much because it's so small. I'm going to clean my gun. This has always worked for me in the past. Hopefully it'll continue to work for me. Clean my gun. Then I'm going to take and put a dab of solder on the end, right over the top of that board like an idiot. Put the wire in there and touch it for a second. Give it a good tug test. Alright, nice and strong. Then I'm going to wrap my heat shrink back over the top of it, and we'll have a corrected wiring harness. Thank you very much. So if you do all this stuff without burning yourself, you'll be doing something great. So I know I left it kind of long, but my thoughts are I'm going to run it around here and then plug it in this way. If everything works out as planned, I think that'll make it. If not, I'll do it out of the top and come around and just bundle the wires to get up front. So okay, now I'm going to get back to the positive wire, which I just started on. Alright guys, got the red wires done, black wires done. I think my routing is going to be pretty okay. Just go ahead and leave your pigtails kind of long until you figure out where you want to put everything else. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the extensions, these wire extensions going out to the actual motors themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and get that set up, and we'll do one and you'll figure out the rest on your own. Okay, so you want to make sure, you know, your motors are heading the right direction and everything. So you're going to just pick one. What I like to do is I like to take the very shortest wire here, which in this case all three are exactly pretty much the same, so it doesn't really matter, but sometimes you'll see there'll be one will be shorter. So the way I do it, to leave me a little slack, is I bring them together and I kind of cut at the very end of where the plug goes, and that just gives me about that much slack, so slack just a little bit. So I'm going to take and cut it now where I see it needs to be. Strip it, and this is where we're going to put the 3.5mm female bullet on. Let's hope that everything's camera wise. I'm having to reuse these bullets for the folks that are doing the simple wiring harness. So these are pre-gooed up a little bit inside, so I'll just put a tiny bit in there just to make up for the smaller wire that it's a little bit thinner than it was before. A wee bit. Dunk it down in there. Oh, we got to pre-tin that first. So it's just good to do it. Just make sure you get a good solid amount of solder through the whole wire. Am I in the picture here? I think so. So heat it up. It goes liquid. Stick it in. Take it off. Kind of hold it in place. I was on there for a little while, so it takes a little bit longer to harden. Come on. It's really getting hot in my hand. Alright. So, in general, I can't touch it right now. Oh, crap. But in general, that's going to plug in to here. And we're going to do that on all the wires, on all three of the speed controllers. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Alright guys, I'm all done. Got all the wires done, heat shrinked up to the back. And so now we're going to go to, I think, okay, so this wiring harness took me about an hour to do. Might take you an hour and a half. It's the first time you've done it. It's not a big deal, and literally, that's it, you're done. You got the wiring harness done, you get it all tucked in there, get the plates together, and you ain't got to mess it again. So it's a good hour and a half well spent. It's a nice clean install. It looks nice and pretty on the copter when it's all done. So we're going to do the board now, I think. Does that sound right? Yeah. Let's wire the board up with the speed controls, and we'll do the receiver, then we're about done. Oh, then we'll do the servo. Alright, so got the wiring harness done. We're going to go ahead and plug in the KK2 board components to the board. And the number one motor is your front left motor. That one right here. And that's number one, so it'll go into your number one slot. Now, negatives always go to the outside of this board. On both sides, your black wires can go to the outside, your white wires can go to the inside, and all your hookups. So unfortunately, these wires are entirely too long. And if you're more than anal than most, which is I'm not, you would actually want to shorten these wires up till they just be the right length. But I ain't got time for that crap, so I know you don't either. So plugs into number one, top right side, negative to the outside, positive to the inside. And what I'll end up doing before it's all said and done is I'm going to take and zip tie in these wires and tuck them in nice and pretty. So number two motor is your right front, passenger front motor. And bring that wire around, route it nice and partially pretty. And we're going to plug that into number two. Number three, let's see, sucks getting old. Okay, and that's really didn't do a good job on that one, so I'm going to run this underneath. There's no wrong way to do it, it's just cram the crap in there and make it work. Alright, number three motor is your rear motor, and we're going to run that up. God. Yeah, definitely going to have some leftover wire here. And I'm going to run this through at some point in time. Come on. Looks so much better on TV. Alright, number three. Number four is going to be your servo. So, alright, that's it. We got the three speed controllers hooked up. We'll zip tie that stuff up, make it look pretty at some point before we close this baby up. Hey, look, leftover heat shrink. And then we'll go to the receiver side. So let's go ahead and... Oh, I'm assuming if it's like the other tricopter, you're going to need to put an extension wire onto the servo. So I'm going to get that servo out and show you what we got to do to it, and we'll go from there. Okay, the servo, HS82 Metal Gear servos that we're using in this build. All of them are pretty much similar. Got a little bag of parts. You got a useless little wheel on here. So we got to cut these tabs off. You can cut them off, sand them off. You know, you're not going to use a knife on it. I use a belt sander I have over here to do it with, but I mean, you could literally take your little cutter things and just snip them off and get you a block sander or a file or something like that and flatten it off. All I have to do is really have to worry about this bottom one. Top one, you know, you just need to get it out of the way, so I'm a little lazy. I'm just going to snip it right on off. These little cutters are awesome. I got them off of eBay, I think. So, homeowner, you got a Dremel tool, take it off. If you don't, push comes to shove, go buy yourself a sanding block and plan on spending a little time, you know, just making it flat. Yeah, that's not so bad. That's not bad at all. So you want to get it as flat as possible. You're going to have foam blocks underneath there, so it's not going to be, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you know what, screw it. I'm just going to leave it like this. We're good. Oh, hell yeah. Alright, don't be scared of servos. He said, I mean, a lot of guys are, I don't want to fly quad, tricopter, or T-copter because I don't know anything about servos. There's nothing to it. I swear, this is a cakewalk dealing with a servo, and I have had very, very, very few failures due to a servo going out or something like that. You know, I don't want the complexity of a servo. Well, if you want to have a true yaw machine, something that will turn, you know, on axis very quickly and very precisely, you got to have a tricopter or T-copter. Quadcopters just are a little bit mushy on that side, and doing, you know, precision type, you know, maneuvers where you're spinning it around, it just ain't going to do it. So for this, we're going to use this servo. I'm going to use the long block. You don't have to use the long one. You can use there's a little X one in here too, but we're going to go with the long. Oh, by the way, don't lose the stupid set screw right here. This is like impossible to find at a hardware store. So I mean, treat this like, you know, your newborn baby. That little screw right there is like your newborn, you know, 2-day-old baby. You don't want to friggin' lose that. So you will have to drill this hole out just a tiny bit. Hopefully you have a set of drill bits. If you don't have a set of drill bits, you can get creative. And I don't recommend this, but I mean, if you're really hard up, you can take and heat this with a lighter and take and push it through the plastic. Again, I don't recommend that, but if you just don't have a drill bit handy, you know, do whatever you have to do. But it's just not gonna. This is not gonna clip on. Wait, never mind. Scratch that heating and put this thing through. I was completely wrong. It's this you got to get into here, and it's just a little too tight. So just take one little drill bit up from that, which is at I think it's the one off of a 16th. I think. I mean, you could try a 16th or the really small drill bit that comes in there, but I think that's about right. And that's for you technical guys out there. Zero that out. It is a 0.59 inches, and for you European guys, it would be a 1.5 millimeter drill bit. I believe that's right. Let's try it and find out. I'm going to take you off right real quick. Okay, drilled it out. Real hard to do here. And I'm going to test it in there. Really? Come on, spread up. Alright, that's, oh yes. Tight, tight, tight. That's beautiful. So, there you go. You got that. We're not going to bother putting the horn on until we're ready to start setting everything up. But, we're going to go ahead and hook up the well, actually I did have to put the horn on, never mind. So, we can take a screwdriver, remove the precious screw that we don't want to lose. There's a little washer under there too, so you want to carefully remove this and take its own little Tupperware bowl. Carefully put it in there. Won't need that again till later on. But we'll take that horn off. It doesn't matter right now where it's at. We're just going to, for now, just stick it on here. Just so we can get the spacing on the, let me make sure I got everything in the function. Yeah, it's close enough. There we go. So we're going to stick that in the hole. Oh yeah. Nice and tight. Where we think it ought to be. Now all we're doing right here is we're finding out where we want to actually attach the servo to here. So you're going to go back to these little pads. You're also going to need some 8-inch zip ties for this particular portion of the build. I like saying that. This particular portion of the build. And stick these little pads here. If you don't have the pads and two-face tape, if you don't have two-face tape, you know, go buy some. This makes life so much easier. Again, these pads are just kind of semi-sticky. You can remove them. They're made to put like pictures on the walls and stuff like that. So they're not exactly, you know, they're not like the KK2 board pads. You could use that too if you wanted to. I mean, that'd make it definitely not come off. So, but because of that, you just basically want to set it on here until it's, you know, right about wherever it needs to be. Sorry, it's not very technical. Oh, lift it up. There we go. Bring the board back down. Bring the motor, rotate it down. Stick it good. Get your 8-inch zip ties. Go around it. Of course, you don't want to zip tie that wire in there. We're also going to do that, you know, positive, negative, you know, one zip tie going one way, one zip tie going the other way on this servo too. So I'm going to rip this down here. Snug it up. Nice. Get my second 8-inch zip tie. You can use 8-inch zip ties in this whole build if you just want to get those. It's not a big deal. Just got a bunch of crap to cut off. Put that on. Put that on. Thank you. And this is really much easier than it looks here. Get your handy dandy. Let's do it with pliers so I can show you. So I'm going to use these snips and a pair of pliers. So if you don't have a zip tie gun, basically you're going to take, here, let me change the camera angle. Okay, hopefully this will work. So you don't have a zip tie gun, you can use a pair of needle nose and another pair of needle nose or whatever, but since we got these little dikes, or here, everybody's got a pair of dikes. These are just normal. But you basically want to stick this, just kind of loosely hold it on there, grab the zip tie. Oh, that didn't work out. That's why zip tie gun's so awesome. You just basically pull until it's nice and tight. I think that's tight. And I'll tell you, get a zip tie gun. Makes life easier. You'll cuss and deal with this. I know it's probably an easier way of doing it, but I've never had to deal without having a zip tie gun. So the other side, probably not in the frame. I apologize, guys. Or girls can build these things too. All right. I mean that's tight, but you know I've got a zip tie gun, so I'm going to use it. Okay, never mind. I don't know where my zip tie gun's at. Oh. Found it. So, but that would have worked. Oh yeah, that's much tighter. You can get these cheap zip tie guns at Harbor Freight, and that might be okay. They just didn't last very long for me. So zip tie gun's a cool thing to have. I mean, chicks dig them, and makes it look like a pro. So our servo's on there, and quite honestly, what we're gonna do is we'll just tell you to pop it back off and just let it hang there, because when we power up the board, that servo's gonna center up, and then you're gonna put this thing back on, depower the board. In fact, the matter is, might have to do a little adjustment on that screw length. You can actually, you know, turn this thing out a little bit, bring it up a little higher. You just want it to be at a 90-degree angle. The horn to be at a 90-degree angle when it's all said and done. But again, knock it off there. We'll worry about that later on. And we're going to bring this wire up. Let me zoom back out. Can't focus again, but let's hope it's in focus. So this wire is going to run up the arm. And see, it ain't going to make it to the board. So you need a little extension. $2. Simplecopter dealer. And sorry the colors don't match, but so it's going to plug that in. And that's going on your number 4 slot on your board. Negative to the outside. So don't forget that. That's the other good reason to take the cover off the board. You actually see where it says positive and negative. So that's going to be tucked up inside of there. This will be all zip tied up and we're ready to go. And honestly, we're almost done. We gotta put the receiver on, and then we gotta put a power plug. You have to decide what you want as far as power plugs go. Again, I use the Deans, which look like, of course, this is the wrong end, but that's a Deans connector. You can get the yellow ones that come on these things. Those come off the Hobby King. If you buy your batteries at Buddy RC, you can actually specify them if you want them with this connector or the Deans to make life a little easier, which I like to have my life a little easier. Sorry. And so let's go ahead and get the, we'll get back to that later on. Let's get back to the receiver installation. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention in parts that you need is these little male-to-male servo leads. And obviously a receiver too. If you bought a radio, they may come with their own receiver. I'm giving you the specs and how to hook up a Spectrum type of receiver. And need that. Okay, this is a lemon receiver that comes from Buddy RC, or Ready to Fly Quads has them also. If I have my really good glasses, which I don't have them, so I'll have to pretend like I have them. Either way, you got a bind plug. This is used when you bind your receiver to your radio for the first time that you're setting it up. Once you bind it, you'll have to go through your radio's thing. You'll remove that. But either way, let's start with the first one, which is, all right, let's go with on the board. The top, am I still in here? Yeah. All right, the very top is your aileron. And I'm going to take and tuck this sucker down there. Again, negative goes to the outside. You see right? Yep, I see a little negative on top of that board. So, aileron is your very first one. Now, there's a lot of talk where people say, you know, you don't want to have a BEC in all your speed controllers. They seem to think that has some kind of issue that I'm not really aware of what that issue is. But I've never had that problem. And when you're dealing with a tricopter or a T-copter, you have to have power going to this first slot and the second slot. If you don't have power going to the second slot, meaning a BC is a little small power supply doohickey that provides 5 or 6 volts of power to your board or to whatever, your receiver and all that. Your receiver receives power from the BEC and the speed controller. So it goes through the board and comes out here, then this feeds your receiver and gives it power. So the long story the short is, go ahead and buy the speed controller that has the BECs in it. And as long as it's a Magic, it's an F30A, it's an Afro, all those have speed control BECs, battery eliminator circuits, I think it's what it's called. All those have BECs that play well together. There was a few speed controllers that were made that had what they call linear BECs. Wait, is that right? Switching linear. Whatever these have, it's linear. Yeah. Linear. These have linear BECs, and they are fine. They work well together. All three of them are hooked together. They don't care. A switching BEC, which is in a higher end, some of the higher end speed controllers, they don't play well together, and you can't use them. So get one of these speed controllers, and you'll be okay. So either way, first slot, aileron. So we look on our little speed controller here. I'm sorry, our little receiver here, and I see that the aileron is not the first one, but the second one. Now, the problem we got on this stupid thing is I keep forgetting which side the negative goes on, and there's no markings on the board, at least that I can see with my pathetically bad eyes. So I'm going to put this on pause, and I'm going to go back to one of my other copters and see how they're set up. I'll be right back. And we're back. Okay, I looked at both of my other ones that have lemons, and the very top, this high part, is your positive. It gets a white wire. So in this case, we're going to go to the second slot and plug the white wire to the top. Your second one down is your elevator. So white wire again goes to the inside. Hey guys, don't, I've screwed up and put these things in backwards, so it happens. Just don't do it. It's bad. So next one's elevator. And looking at this, aileron elevator is on this particular board the third one over, or fourth one, whichever way you want to call it. The third down is the throttle. And the throttle on this receiver is the very first slot after the bind plug. So white to white. This one goes in the throttle. This one goes in the thank you. Alright, fourth one down in the slot is your rudder. Again, monotonously saying, the white goes to the inside. And this one plugs in this particular board. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one out. Just checking again, and it says rudder RU. So white goes to the top. And the fifth slot is your auto level switch. And I usually plug this into the gear switch, because most radios, the gear switch is nice and prominent, nice and tall. You can find it. And on this radio, it says gear is the next slot over. So it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th one over. This is a Lemon, the cheap Lemon receiver that you get from Buddy RC. It's like $6 to $10. I forget what it was. So there we go. Our receiver is now plugged in and hooked up. Wiring harness is done. All we got to do now is put a connector on the end of this pigtail coming off here and button this thing up, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to clean everything up. I'm going to attach this. I don't know where I'm going to attach this at. Okay. I feel like Austin Powers now. Okay. So, kind of like that, but it's too fat. It's going to hit. So I'm going to probably just kind of bump it out around here and then stick it. I'm going to stick it out here so my wire can be, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to take my last half of my tape, wherever my two-face tape went, I'm going to attach it right here. The only pisser is if you ever have to get in here and rebind it, it's going to be hard to get to this bind plug. So I need to bind it first before I close it up. Wait, what am I going to do this way? No. That would look kind of stupid. It wouldn't be too bad sitting outside. Maybe I'll do that. Well, still can't get to the bind plug. So we need to bind it before we button this thing up. So I'm going to go ahead and solder on my pigtail end, and we'll go over the setup, and then I'll bind it, and then I'll button it up at the end. So I got to clean up all this wiring and stuff too. So see how easy this is. Okay, I'm using the Dean's connector, and on the back of this side, I don't know if you can tell in the picture, but actually you'll see a plus and a negative. It's kind of handy. So the flat side, the skinny, the small, thin side is your negative, and the vertical side is your plus. So we're going to start by, I've already pre-stripped. Oh, I think it's in focus. Either way, I pre-stripped the wire here. So I need to tin those wires. If I can find the solder. There it is. Dope. I need to turn on the soldering iron. So we need to pre-tin this. We need to pre-tin this. You need to pre-cut some heat shrink. This is something else I always forget. And slide those suckers on there while I'm waiting for the soldering iron to heat up. It's the only nice thing about an expensive soldering iron is that they heat up fast. Alright, so we got a little twist in these, We're going to pre-tin. Am I in the picture? Yeah. Soldering iron. Nice. Still not quite super hot yet, but we're close enough. Come on. There we go. I'm going to pre-tin our tabs. A little dab on each one. Now if you use the yellow ones, they're not terribly hard to do. They're pretty self-explanatory. If you're that far into it, you'll know. Alright, what we say was a positive again? I can't see nothing. I think this is a negative. Let's see, let me get a battery. That's the other way to do it. Find a battery already has it on. Yep. So negative goes on here. Beautiful. Proud of that one. Positive goes on the side. I have to block it a little bit, sorry. Hey, that one's going to be nice too. Awesome. Alright, let that set. Pop your heat shrink up in there. Get your fancy heat device. And you've got a lead. So now we got a lead. We can do the smoke test / power up the board. I believe that's next. Make sure I'm doing everything. I can turn off my soldering iron now. I think that's good. Okay. Okay, before we power up anything, we need to bind the radio to the actual receiver. When doing this, unfortunately I already got it. I'm going to just do a fresh model. I'm going to turn on my radio. And I'm going to select, in this case you hit the 2 right buttons, add new model. Do you want to create a new model? Sure. Okay, so model select. Stock on these radios will be airplane. And you can switch it to helicopter, you switch it to glider, depends on the radio, but this particular one in most of the spectrums, its factory goes to what they call acro, airplane, which is, well, that didn't work out. Model select, model type, maybe that's what it is. Model type, airplane. You want to pick airplane. I know it sounds crazy. You think, oh, it should be a helicopter. Nope. You want airplane. So don't do nothing, just back out of that. Model name. Name it whatever. I'm not worried about it because once I get done showing you guys how to do this, I'm going to rebind it to the one I already got set up for Tricopter because I sold that one. So that's all you do there. You can put the model name. That's a good idea. Call it Cool Tricopter or something like that. So I've got a fresh model. Nothing's been done. Well, while we're here, let's go ahead and fix what needs to be fixed. With a Spectrum radio and a Spectrum receiver and a KK2 board, you will have to do the following. You'll have to go to your servo setup. I know in the DX6, which a lot of people use, it's a little different than just this one, but you'll find it. Go look in the manual and you'll find it. Then you're going to go to your reverse switches, okay? And what you want to change is you want to change the aileron to negative and the elevator to negative. Leave the throttle where it's factory setting and leave the rudder factory setting, leave the gear factory setting. Once that's all done, go back out, go to the main screen. Now we're ready to bind. As far as binding goes, you plug in your copter, pray nothing goes up in smoke, and then with the transmitter off, you plug in your copter with the bind plug in. Is that still in there anywhere? Right. With the bind plug in, you'll plug it in. This thing should start flashing. And you turn your radio off. Let's go ahead and just do it. Let's throw caution to the wind. If I can find a battery, here's a battery. So, we're going to plug in the copter. Alright, say a little prayer, no smoke or nothing if I just screwed up nothing. Okay, that's a good sign. Oh, okay. So, you see this thing is rapidly flashing. So, we turn on the radio and we hold the bind plug in this position. It's this one on here, and usually have to get it a little bit farther away.
Binding. DSMX 11 milliseconds.
Hold that button.
Bind complete.
And mine says bind complete. Let go of the button. All the lights are on this. At that point in time, you want to remove your bind plug. Now, if you screw up and forget to do all that, you have to start all over again. But either way, we're done. I'm going to answer the phone and I'm going to find out who's calling me, and we'll go from there. Okay, let's go over the setup for the Tricopter. Now, if you're doing the Tricopter or T-Copter, they're both set up as Tricopter. So, some of this I can't, not sure why I did that. Okay, we have to, you know what, I need to be on a flat level. But either way, we'll start with this. We need to put in the model name, or model type. So the right button, you press it, You scroll down to Load Motor Layout. Enter. And you're going to go down to Tricopter. Some boards are going to say Tricopter something 4 and Tricopter something 7. If you're building it like this, usually something 4. It's like S4 or something like that. It's on some of the newer programs and some of these boards. But either way, we're going to say Tricopter. Are you sure? Yes, I am. Alright, you're going to notice on this particular board, you're going to see a Tricopter layout. It's going to show you little arrows, and that arrow is a rotation of the motor. So just a quick thing, your front left motor is rotating clockwise, like a clock would spin around. Your number 2 motor, your right front motor, is spinning counterclockwise, and your rear motor is spinning clockwise. I've had a lot of people ask me, can I put them rotating different ways? You can, if you run out of clockwise and you have a bunch of extra counterclockwise, you can put a counterclockwise in the back. You'll have to change the rotation of the motor. It'll fly mostly good. I've had a little issue with flying in reverse, like backing up. It can get a little bit where it'll start yawing around, and you can do all that, but I find it flies best if you keep it the way it's supposed to be done. The next thing we got to do is ACC calibration, and that's telling it where the flat spot is. Luckily, my table is pretty flat. As long as you're in a relatively flat area, you should be able to do that, and we can always fix that later on. Either way, I'm going to hit the stop button and lay this thing flat so we can do ACC calibration. Okay, we got it relatively flat, so we're going to back out of that little Tricopter setup, keep backing up. Now we're going to go to a thing called ACC calibration. You're going to hit the enter, continue, and it'll do a countdown. Don't touch a frame, don't buffer it while you're doing this, and let it do the 1 and calibrating, and you're done. So continue, success. Woohoo! Alright, next thing I'm going to do is, and it's something I just do, it may not need it, but it seems to not hurt anything, is we're going to go to miscellaneous settings, and there's a thing called servo filter at the bottom. Its stock is set at 50. Enter. I set it at 70. Okay, then next thing we're going to do is we're going to go down to the alarm, and I don't think I've covered this before, but I might have. And for a 3-cell battery, you want it to cut off at 100, which would be the 10 volts. You want it to start beeping. So you would change that value down to 100, which would be 110.0 volts. And then if you're running a 4-cell pack, then I usually run mine at 140, which is 14 volts, and it'll start beeping at that point in time. So as far as what they call back. Oops. Alright, as far as PI editor, that's your gains. I usually run it stock, just pretty much what's on here, and go with that. I might drop those a little bit, because these matches are pretty sensitive, so I'm going to drop it down to 50 just for fun. See how I like that. Scale stick, I'm going to leave it stock for now. That's the thing that makes it be more aerobatic. It makes it much quicker to do stuff. So once you get better, and you get kind of bored, you want to make it go, roll faster and loop faster, then you can start slowly bringing up the things called scale stick. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and button this thing up, and then we're going to check rotation of the props, and I'll show you how to fix that if there's a problem. Back and stop. Okay, I almost forgot. We got to do throttle calibration. That was the one last thing we didn't do. To do throttle calibration, you take your turn your radio on. It's hard to see if it's on, and bring your throttle all the way to the top. With all this with your props off, by the way. The trick is doing all the stuff with the camera sitting right over the top of this copter, but you got to plug in the battery, and then hit the 1 and 4 buttons and hold them down until you hear a beep sequence. And I'll just tell you if it's right, if it works, but you have to do it pretty quick, within like a second of hooking it up. Alright, we did it right. We did the 1 beep, throttle down. Alright, hopefully you heard that, and then you let go. So it did a single beep, it said throttle calibration. You pull the throttle down, it goes beep, beep, beep. If you don't hear that, it didn't work, okay? I don't care if it says throttle calibrated. If you don't hear that beep, 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 it didn't work. You need to do it again until it works. So I did it right the first time, and I'm happy about that. The other last thing is, let's see if I can get this thing unplugged. So the battery hook up on the bottom. We need to put a piece of Velcro in here, and I know it's pretty self-explanatory, but once you have the Velcro in there, you'll slide the battery in and belt it down. Velcro just hold it in place, but very important. So big old fat puffy battery from, I'm not going to say who it's from. I'm not real happy with the battery, so don't read that name. I don't know what that means. Okay, so we got the battery, got the thing. I'm gonna put some props on, take it outside, and make sure it flies good. Okay, we got it all buttoned up, got everything zip tied on. One important thing you want to do is make sure you put the zip tie on this very far. Actually, I should have a little bit more slack in that. That was kind of. There you go. You want that zip tie to be behind these wires. You don't want to zip tie up here, because if you have a crash and the motor comes off in the front end collision, you can rip the wires out of the base here. You really want it to be zip tied back here so the wires will pull loose in a hard crash. Some of the new guys that have never messed with brushless motors would see that we had 3 wires, and I just connected them up, and with really no explanation of what is going on with that. With the 3-wire brushless motor, if the motor is spinning the wrong way, you take any 2 of these wires and switch them, and it'll spin the opposite way. So we got to do a motor test to make sure all the motors fire up and spin. We'll check direction, and we'll hook up the rear servo, and we'll do all that pretty much right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in, and we'll do a motor test, and hopefully one will be backwards. As usual, I forgot something. I forgot the buzzer, the beeper. And look at the plus and negative on the board. So the plus is there, negative's here. And I have to feed that somewhere to the front before I'm all done. I'll probably actually feed it into the side and then plug it in. It should beep now. Oh, after I plug it in. Oh yes. So, beeps when it's armed. Sorry about the obnoxious beep. Okay, got the beeper on there. I got it powered up. To arm the control, I'll show you how to arm it in a second. But either way, we're going to arm it, and we're going to check, make sure all the motors are spinning, and they're all spinning. So this motor right here is spinning. Hey, good, it's spinning the wrong way. It's spinning clockwise right now, and I want it to spin counterclockwise. So all I got to do is pull out any 2 wires and replug them back in. Alright, now it's spinning counterclockwise. That one's wrong. And they're all wrong. Okay. So I'm going to fix them real quick, and we'll go to the rudder. Also, in case you're brand new at this, to arm this copter, you take your stick and go to the left, and it says armed. And then to disarm it, go to the right. Well, actually that was left. Go to the right to arm, and left to disarm. The other interesting thing is if you're armed, you'll sit there and beep for about 10 seconds. If you don't do anything, you don't throttle up or anything, it'll disarm itself. So don't freak out if you're like, hey, it doesn't work after about 10 or 15 seconds. So I'm going to get this thing set up for the rudder, and we'll go from there. Alright, the way I do this, I plug in the battery. Don't arm it, don't do anything. Then you want to take and, I got backwards, but either way. Basically, you want to slide this horn onto the shaft as close to 90 degrees as you can get it. Alright, I'm going to test it. Alright, I'm going to back out a little bit here. When you kind of test to make sure everything's going right, it should go opposite the way you're going. See how it's trying to counter what I'm doing? If it goes with it, then we got a problem with it in the mixer editor. The other thing that I get questioned about a lot of times is when I move this stick to the left, that goes to the right. And vice versa. It goes opposite the way that it's set up. The reason for that is that you're flying the front nose, so when you turn this way left, that'll move it this way and thus make the nose go to the left. So so once we get everything set like you want it, let me check the, see, I have more throw going this way than I have going this way. So I need to move that. Do I need to move it a little bit? Let me see. It's probably enough. Also, it doesn't come back center every time. It goes a little bit one way or the other. It's just the way the KK board is. Don't worry about it. So I'm going to leave it like it is for now, and we'll see if we need to adjust it later on. So once you get that centered, the way you do it is you unplug the battery, and you carefully rotate. You know, don't jerk it. Just carefully rotate that and take that precious screw that I almost lost, and you want to put it back in place. And again, if you have a carpeted room or something like that, you want to make sure this is over the table, so when you drop it, it'll drop somewhere where you can actually find it. So I'm going to put it over my table before I turn the camera off. Make sure it screws back in because we don't want to lose it. It's a 2.5 millimeter screw. It's crazy. So you can't find them anywhere. So that was a difficulty of the rudder. I mean, it's a piece of freaking cake. So I've got the motors all put in the right direction. Trying to think of what else. Let me think, and then I'll get right back to you. All right, I can't think of anything else. About the props, the top side of the prop will have writing on it normally. And this particular prop has an adapter ring. You just need to fit the adapter rings that come with the prop until you find one that fits right. I believe it's a 4 millimeter, maybe a 5 millimeter shaft, probably 5. And you basically put the prop adapter in. It's a good idea to balance props. Some of the new ones from Buddy RC, those 845s from Buddy RC, are really well balanced. I've only got to try one direction. I'm waiting for another shipment of the other direction to make sure those are as well balanced. But if not, you need to go ahead and get a prop bouncer. It doesn't hurt to have one. It's something I always use, and they're just a little doohickey right here, and you put the prop on it. And I mean, this one's been balanced, I think. And it's a good thing to have. They're $15. You can probably find them cheaper if you go on eBay or something like that. I'm a horrible salesperson, but that's close. But I mean, if it just drops like a rock. So actually put a little bit too much on this one, but you know, if they just go thunk, then you know it's not good. This one's just kind of slowly going down. It's probably fine for flying, but so it just needs props and a test flight, and I think we're ready to roll. So I'm going to do the test flight up in Raleigh, North Carolina. I live in Marietta, Georgia, and I got a buddy up there that really has a bunch of cool stuff. So we're going to go up there and visit him this weekend. I'm going to take this up there and and go ahead and test fly it. Let's see how this thing looks all bodied up. Nice. I wonder if it lights up for the board. I'm going to light it up in it. It'd be kind of cool. Can't see. Oh well. Has a little bit of light. It would be kind of neat to put lights in there. I'm going to turn the lights off real quick and see if it shows up. But I want to put LEDs underneath this and have this body glow, and then probably put LEDs on the arms. But I think it'll have a neat look on it. But it's pretty neat. Hopefully the bodies will work out. Invest a lot of time and money into getting them up and running, and we'll see. But nice thing is, in the rain, if you build it this way with the speed controls on the inside, I think some minor rain and stuff like that isn't going to bother it. Servo should be okay. It might get a little wonky if it gets real wet, but you know, a torrential downpour, you're not going to fly them, but some sprinkles and stuff like that, this will keep the board from getting wet and be kind of nice. Plus it just looks fantastic. So sorry we're doing this in the dark. Let me turn the lights back on. But alright, so next thing you should ought to see is this thing flying up in Raleigh, North Carolina. Y'all have a good night. Bye bye. Day, whatever. Okay guys, we're going to try the Simplecopter 3.0 out and fly a little bit. Unfortunately, I dropped my main radio and broke both gimbals out of it, sent it back to Horizon to be repaired. So I'm having to use an old DX8, and nothing wrong with the radio. It's just I'm not used to the sticks like this because they're just the way it is. But either way, I've also got a broken rear prop a little bit. It's just a little bit broke. So if it flies off, will be interesting. This thing has fantastic, pretty much everything. The yaw is just unbelievable as always, but it flies really well in balance. Amazing. Good flyer, so. Let's see, what can we do? We can do the old up. That wasn't very good. It's also a little bit windy out here. Windy out here today. And sunny. Let's see, what else? Oh, toilet bowl swirly. Seems to be one of my favorites. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I have to do it again. There we go. You don't have a lot of control where it's going when you're doing this. So, I can also do it in backwards. Let me do that later because I don't want to replace props if I don't have to. I need to speed that up. Oh, the wall came up on me quick. That was horrible. All right, so you can also fly it around nice and slow on, scale stick. It's very docile if you have the stock scale stick on it. I'll also fly it around a little bit in auto level. Let me click on auto level. All right, it's on auto level now. So now it comes back to level whenever you let go of the stick. So if you're just learning how to fly, it's a little bit off trim. I haven't really trimmed out the auto level 100% yet, but you get the idea. Left goes back straight, right goes back straight, forward. So it's great for learning and for video. Really, I use it for video whenever. I'm trying to have real nice, smooth type video. Like I said, back prop's got a little bit of a quiver. All right, let's get off auto level, retrim it best I can with this wind. Let's go fast. Where can we go fast? Hold on a second. Let me land. Yeah, I can do a pass, I think. It's gonna just do is, I got power wires and all sorts of stuff here. I'm just not used to this area. Let's see what we can do here. Sign. Yeah, it really isn't. This thing will just cook, so it's hard to. Is there a power? I can't see that. I think there's a power wire out there, but I'm gonna try to go under it and see if I can get a little bit quicker. And the wind's coming right at me, so it's to my back, so it won't be quite as. Yeah, that wasn't very good. I do like pavements. Drag an arm a little bit. Might as well, it's brand new. Hey, look, that guy's on a skateboard. Cool. All right, where was I? Got another skateboarder coming.
wasn't very pretty. All right, I'm gonna walk into the building. See what we got. Yeah, screw it. Oh, good, the ground. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna try to hit the fence. It's a really bad idea, but what could possibly go wrong? Battery's probably about dead, so. Yes! Whoa, how do I get it? Okay, that was cool. Not what I meant to do, but let's try it again. Oh, oh. Okay, well, gee, I hope nobody saw that. All right, let's see what we did. Besides shattering all the paint, okay, I guess I need to use a different kind of paint on my body because it literally, when it hit, it shattered like all the paint off it. So I know they make plastic body paints. So we got 2 motors, came loose. It's like zip ties, it didn't break a prop. And I think the back just did a twisty. Best thing to do whenever it twists sideways like that is disconnect the battery and then you just kind of pop it back in place. And I did lose my rear collet, so that's not good because I don't have it. Well, it should be around here somewhere. So I'm going to find my rear collet because it came off, and looks like there's absolutely no damage except for shattered paint off the body. It's crap. Hope you can see all that. Hopefully this camera recorded that because that was absolutely. I didn't do that. No, it wasn't me. So I'm looking for my collet, and I'm going to probably call that quits. That was pretty cool with the hanger on the fence and everything. So found the collet, which is a miracle. And again, just to reiterate, looks like literally that crash, all it was, besides a lot of paint, is 4 zip ties. That's it. Props are okay, good enough for me at least. Back prop's still pretty chewed up. I mean, I can plug it in. Well, I can't, but I can. You can see that the tail's fine. It's just needs a collet put back on. It was kind of a good wall up there. Like I said, that hole in the wall was there before I got. God, yeah, I definitely need to use some different paint. So I'm gonna try to find some better plastic paint. This was kind of done in a rush. I didn't even clean up the body before I did it. But either way, that was pretty cool. And yeah, 4 zip ties. Awesome. By the way, just a word of note, if you ever do lose your collet and you can't find it, which should have been my case, you can take a zip tie, one of these real small zip ties, and you can zip tie it around the back, kind of like a temporary thing to hold it until you can get another zip tie. I mean, another collet. Man, I took a wallet back there. That's pretty cool. So I'm gonna put 4 zip ties on this thing, go fly it again. So y'all be good. Bye.